Welcome to the G Women Voices of Influence series, where we spotlight women whose voice, leadership, and impact are shaping the future. My name is Mayuri Naidu, and today I am joined by Nerisha Charlton, a chartered HR professional, executive HR and talent director, and global transformation leader with more than 2 decades of experience shaping organizations across Africa and Europe. From leading large-scale business transformations to championing inclusion, diversity, and leadership development across more than 30 countries, Nerisha has dedicated her career to helping people and organizations thrive. Nerisha Charlton is a woman of influence for sure, so let's dive in. Welcome, Nerisha. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Mayuri. That sounded like a mouthful.
No, but that's who you are. It's fantastic. So we're going to get
Yes.
right in. I want to talk about your origin story, Nerisha. So every woman of influence has a story behind her impact. What experiences led you to pursue a career in human resources and talent leadership? And what inspired your passion for developing people and transforming workplace cultures?
Mm. Yeah, I think that question takes me back to my choices at university, I would say, because when I left school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went to university and chose some very generic subjects in the human sciences, though. So there must have been something about, the curiosity on people. And I studied psychology and sociology and fell in love with, I think, the subject, but also the curiosity around why people behave the way they do, and just wanting to know more. And one thing led to another, and I ended up in the HR field over the years at Varsity, and stayed. I did try something at some point going into operations, but realized very quickly it wasn't for me, and then came back. So quite by accident, I guess that's how I landed in HR. And the why behind what keeps me here, I will say, is people are fascinating. And even though human behavior is what it is, I think that when you have the opportunity to work across, multiple geographies and cultural diversity and meet interesting people along the way, and age is not a factor, young people, older generations, etc. That's what engages me. I love the variety in what I do, and I'm fortunate that I get to do different things all the time. So that keeps me there.
It's amazing how your purpose often begins with seeing what's possible in people before they see it in themselves, and then you finding that this is something that you're interested in. That's incredible.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's it, right? I think it's completely linked to the purpose. Mine,
Hmm.
my purpose is around making positive impact from I think from childhood. It's something that I enjoyed. And always you want to see the fruit of your labor, right? So I think as you get older,
Absolutely.
the more you invest, the more rewarding it is. And I think that being purpose-led and people-focused is a huge part of what I do.
For sure. I can see that. I can hear your passion in your voice when you talk about your career. So I want to know now about the influencer behind the influence. So
Mm.
who or what has had the greatest influence on your leadership journey? And how has that shaped the way you lead teams and develop future leaders?
Mm. Yeah, Mayuri, I think that I'm very fortunate. I have grown up amongst a number of women in my personal life who I admired and who were also purpose led, but had the strength and the courage to speak their truth. At the
Mm,
same token, when I joined the work environment, I also was very fortunate to have women leaders that I completely admired and learned a lot from. So to call out one person, I mean, I'm going to say my mother. It sounds so cliched, right? Yet
but
I
of
do
course.
believe that she was the most constant in my life. So, of course, there's many things about the way she behaved, the way she taught me to be brave and courageous, and really put my best foot forward. I think that there's a big part of who I am that resonates with who she was. In the years we grew together, because we did grow together, I will say that we were each other's best cheerleaders. And then having the fortune of being in a family where women thrived in our family. And then also, like I say, I think professionally, I've come across some proper powerhouses, and it's not about corporate or career, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about women who find the balance, and women who genuinely demonstrate their purpose. There's the names come flooding in when I think about women over the years, but it's been decades, and there's too many to mention. I'm sure they know who they are if they're listening to this, because we have built strong, long relationships and deep friendships over the years because we have common purpose.
I think it's a safe thing to say then that leadership is often a reflection of those who have invested in us along the way. As much as we give, they give to us, whether it's in our career or our personal lives, like our mums, our grandmums, all of that. Which leads me into my next question, which is about impact and transformation. So throughout your career, you've led transformation across industries and countries. So what lasting impact are you most passionate about creating for individuals, for teams, and for organizations?
Sure. So I'm going to say it's a couple of things, right? I think most important to me is how people feel along the way, because that's what stays with them, and that's what they attach to the whole process. I mean, transformation is a process, and attached to that process comes a hell of a lot of emotion. And generally, as human beings, you tend to remember the negative emotions and then you remember the
Mm-hmm.
process. So that's what
For
you feel
sure.
first and then you think second, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, anytime there is transformation, my first and foremost is make sure that people are feeling okay about it. The second piece that's super important is the why behind. At some stage in their change curve, the logic will set in and they will understand why the transformation is necessary. And you need to help and nurture them in a way that they need to find what is in it for them along the way. So the impacts for me is after the whole process happens, you then, I mean, I personally have interacted with people who are part of transformations along the way. And of course, later on, when you have a conversation, they will reflect and say, oh, that was a lousy process, but thank you for making it bearable. Or thank you for the encouragement that I came out on the other end actually better than I started, in a better position, or maybe they had some personal challenge or something, and the transformation actually helped them in the longer run. You know, so for me, it's so absolutely important that I do the most to make sure that they are in the best position at the end of that transformation that I can impact. And I can do
Yeah.
what I can do. I mean, of course, there are textbook tactics that you would deploy in a transformation, and there's a whole lot of theory and everything behind it. But I'll finish this response by saying where I started. It's really most important to me how people feel through the process, and that they have the tools and that we are taking care of them throughout that journey of transformation. So that's my
I
success factor.
I think that's the kind of leadership, Nerisha, that creates change long after a project is complete, which is what you want. You want to have that impact on
Mm.
people. As much as it's corporate focused and business focused, you want, like you said, to how you want people to remember how they felt after that. which
Yes,
is great
yes.
because now I want to talk about your signature superpower. So, we all have a unique gift that allows us to make the impact that we do. So, what would you say is your superpower, and how has it helped you build inclusive cultures and unlock the potential of the people around you?
Okay, it's definitely not in the kitchen. I have no power in the kitchen, so that won't work. Um, I think the one thing that resonates with me, and maybe it's about personal experience, but something that I am very proud of is my resilience.
Mm,
Over the years, I have endured some really difficult experiences on a personal level. Yet, I'm proud that I came out of it, finding all the positives and doing the best I could with what I had in front of me. I enjoy problem solving, and I feel a sense of satisfaction when I have solved something. So that could be the driver behind the resilience, but also that I know, going through change is never easy. Transformation is always tough on people. Yet there will be some positive in the long run, which is something I hold
mhm.
on to. So the resilience for me is something I hold on with both hands because there's always challenges in our jobs in HR, as
Yeah.
you know. And as you are dealing with people, you want to make sure that you are doing the most and the best you can for them. Sometimes it's out of
Mhm,
your control. So for yourself, you need to be resilient to be able to manage the times when it's out of your control. And I
mhm.
found that that's what's, again, another success factor for me is my levels of resilience, no matter what comes my way. So that would be the superpower.
Absolutely. I think resilience is a very underrated superpower because we need it in every aspect of our life. And it is something that once you have it, it just builds and builds and builds and gets better. So thank you for mentioning that. It's
Yeah.
so important in life and professionally.
Mm.
Now let's talk
I
about
think I
oh,
want to
sorry.
share something with you one moment, right?
Sure.
I want to share this about the resilience piece. So many people who know me know that I have a son, and my son is a special needs boy, and he had a near drowning accident when he was really little.
Mm,
And I'm going to say that I think that's where the resilience story started with me. And
of
as we
course.
grow, and he's 21 now, but he is probably the most resilient person I have ever met. And he continues to thrive because of his levels of resilience. So it doesn't really take much, I suppose, for me to say, where does it come from? It comes from within. Also, I have a living, breathing, everyday example around me.
Hmm.
So on the days when things are not so great and you have many challenges to face, I am very inspired by my son. So yeah,
That's
I wanted to
wonderful.
share that around making sure you have someone to help you um, nurture your superpower.
Absolutely. And what a lesson of resilience he is. But I think also that that is a little bit of his mom and the support structure that he's had around him too. We get our resilience from ourselves for sure, but definitely the community and the family and friends that we have. So you should
Yeah,
give yourself some props as well about that.
thanks.
So now I want to talk about amplifying women's voices, Narisha, because at
Mhm.
G Woman, we believe every woman deserves not only a voice, but a platform. So throughout your career, you've championed inclusion and created opportunities for others to grow. Why is it so important for women to use their voices and intentionally create space for other women to lead?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, we are each other's best cheerleaders, I'm going to say. And I think it's about growing together, opening doors. Not
Mhm.
everyone has the same opportunity, right? So if you're
Yes.
fortunate enough to have the opportunity, why not help create for others? And yes, inclusion is a massive topic on its own. Um, it doesn't matter where in the world. I mean, fortunate that I am to work for a global organization, I get to interact with women from all cultures, cultural backgrounds across the globe. And at the very core, we all have very similar experiences. We all have the
Mm-hmm.
same fears. We all have the same triumphs, trials, whatever you call it. And yes, there are unique experiences in that your lived experience is yours. Yet the tools are the same. The opportunities can be created for these women to thrive. And when you start to engage with other women, you realize that, okay, there's not much difference amongst us. So the importance is
Absolutely.
just where you have the opportunity, another individual may not have the same, and culturally, we come from different walks of life. So we all have different value systems.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's easier for some, like me, for example, I'm very outspoken, I'm very decisive, and so on. But that does not hold true for other women who I've
Mm-hmm.
interacted with. So helping to nurture them and coach them, and you'd have the conversations where they say, I really admire this about that woman or another, and so on. And then it's just tapping into that and really, really creating opportunities so that more women can succeed and can
Yeah.
have the let me see the positive mindset that they can actually succeed and grow.
Mm-hmm. I truly think creating opportunities for others is like one of the greatest forms of leadership that you can to
Mm.
collaborate and be able to create those opportunities. So thank you for that. And finally, I want to ask you about your message to women. So many women watching are building their careers while navigating change or uncertainty or stepping into leadership for the first time. So what message would you like to leave them with today?
I would say be authentic, um, and vulnerable enough to also ask for help so that someone can create the opportunity for you. If you don't ask, you won't know. So I'll
Mhm.
say be the cheerleader for someone, um, open the door and create the opportunity so that more women can thrive and that we build the strong communities that we live in.
Yes, well said, Narisha. Thank you so much. A woman with a voice influences her world, but a woman with a platform changes it. This is the G Women Voices of Influence series, and thank you, Nerisha Charlton.
Thank you so much, Mayuri.